Hello Year 9, this week's lesson we're going to be looking at electrical calculations. We're going to make sure that by the end of this week you feel a little bit more confident about how to go about doing these. So we finished the last lesson looking at these 5 equations. These are the 5 that you need to know and be able to use in the electrical circuits unit. It will depend on whether you're doing higher or foundation tier as to how you're expected to use these equations. You might be given the equation in the question, although that's most likely to happen at foundation tier. You might be asked to identify and write out an equation, in which case you'll be given a mark for doing so. You may be expected to just use the correct equation in the question, and it will probably direct you to state the equation you've used. Or you may have to complete a 2-part calculation, where you're expected to spot that you start with one equation and then use another one. And this is obviously the hardest type of question that you could be asked and is only going to happen on the higher tier paper. So I'm going to be showing you how to use Miss Foster's magical method for doing calculations. You can use this whether you're doing GCSE, A-level or beyond. It will work for absolutely anything. It starts by making sure you read the question and then work out what you know already. Then you have to state what you're trying to find out and use that to select the correct equation. The most common mistake I see in exam papers are students who try and fit the numbers into the wrong equation. You then need to check the units of the information you're given. Do you need to convert any, or are they already in a standard form? We then stick the numbers in the equation. Remember, I always say put the numbers in, then if you mock up your maths, you've got all your physics marks. We complete the calculation, write out the answer, and always state the units. Finally, you may need to check to see if you have to do anything particular with decimal places or significant figures. Let's look at this example where we're going to calculate the current flowing through a 24 ohm resistor connected to a 12 volt power supply. First of all, what do we know? Well, we know we've got a 24 ohm resistor and we know we've got a 12 volt power supply. So we know R is 24 and we know that V is 12. And then what are we trying to find out? Well, we know we've got to calculate the current I. We now need to select the correct equation. So we've got to have V, R and I in it, which takes us to Ohm's law, or V equals IR. We check the units. Ohms and volts are all standard. We don't need to make any changes. So we're now going to put the numbers into the equation, as you see here, and then calculate the right answer. And finally, we're going to write out the answer, 0.5 amps. So we've got the units on the end there. There's no requirement to have any particular number of decimal places or significant figures here. So that's the end of the question. In the second example, we're calculating the energy transferred when 50 coulombs flows from a 9 volt battery. So what do we know? Well, we know we've got 50 coulombs of charge and we know we've got a 9 volt battery, so that we know that Q is equal to 50 and we know that V equals 9. What are we trying to find out? Well, we've been asked to calculate the energy, so we're looking for E. We need to get the right equation with EV and Q in, which gives us the equation E equals Q times V. We're then going to check our units. Coulombs and volts are fine, they're all standard units, so we can go straight into putting the numbers into the equation. E equals 9 times 50. And then we can complete the equation. Nice and easy, this one. We'll just go straight to 9 times 50 is 450. And then we put joules, which gives us the units at the end. Again, there's no particular requirement here for a certain number of decimal places or significant figures. Here's our third example where we want to calculate the charge that passes when a current of 3 amps flows for 2 minutes. So what do we know? Well, we know that there's a current of 3 amps and we know it flows for 2 minutes. So we know that I is equal to 3 and we know that T is equal to 2 minutes. What are we trying to find out? Well, we've been asked to calculate the charge Q. We need to select the correct equation with Q, I and T in it. That gives us the equation Q equals I times T. Check the units. Do we need to convert any? Well, this time is in minutes and that's not standard. We need it to be in seconds. So we are going to have to convert that by multiplying 2 by 60 to get 120 seconds. We're now going to put the numbers in the equation as we have done before. And then it's simple to calculate. We've got 3 times 120 gives us 360 coulombs. Again, no need to worry here about decimal places or significant figures. Here's our last example where we calculate the current flowing through a 12.8 watt bulb connected to a 2.3 volt battery. What do we know? Well, we know that it's a 12.8 watt bulb, so we know the power, and we know it's a 2.3 volt battery. So we know that P is equal to 12.8, V equals 2.3. What are we trying to find out? We're trying to find the current I. So we need an equation which has all of those things in. P equals V times I is going to be the correct equation. The units are fine. We've got standard units, so we're going to stick the numbers straight in. Having put the numbers in, we rearrange to do the calculation. And then finally, we're going to write out the answer with the units. Now, it asks us to check about decimal places, and up here, it asks us to go to 2 decimal places. So if we have a little look at our answer and we pick 2 decimal places, that's 5, 6. But the next number 5 means I have to move the 6 up to a 7. So my 2 decimal place answer will be 5.572 dp. Okay, that's all I wanted to go through with you. It's quite a short lesson. It's now for you to have a bit of a practice. There's a worksheet attached to show my homework with some example calculations, which I've taken from exam papers so they feel a bit real. Work through these, but make sure you use the method, which I've also attached separately as just one PowerPoint slide. The second video then goes through the answers so you can check them and see me working through them if there's anything you're unsure about. And then finally complete the quiz. You'll need a calculator, but some of the questions are just making sure you can identify your equations correctly. If you're unsure about any of the maths, significant figures or decimal places, I've made 2 short videos and uploaded those as well, so you can have a look at those if you're a little bit unsure. Okay, good luck with all of that.